Hello, everyone. Just check that's working. Thanks, Justin. Great event. Again, well done. And yeah, I'm from Deadline, and traditionally we cover the film and TV business. That's kind of what we do. One of the top websites in the world in that respect. But increasingly, because driven by our readership and how content is made, distributed, created, etc., we're writing about the people who are on stage today. This really is just an absolutely fantastic lineup. We've only got, I've been told, 29 minutes, not even 30. So I'm going to go really fast. So I'm sorry if I'm talking fast, but I've also just had 2 coffees. But I'm going to try and get as much in as possible. I think the interesting thing is that if my questions aren't up to scratch, please get involved, because I can see questions coming through here. So, ask your questions and I'll get them. So I'm going to do quick introductions, spend a bit of time with each person, then have a group conversation, and then your questions feed in as well. So there's a lot to try and cram into what is now 28 minutes. So I'm going to go, Ed, I'm going to come to you first because you're next to me. In fact, I'm going to introduce everyone, then I'm going to come to you first. Ed Lindeman joins us from TikTok, Head of Publisher Partnerships and Operations UK. I think that's right, as of today. Josh Bloom, next from Twitch, now Senior Programme Manager, Josh, I believe. And at the end, we have Lucy Luke from Snapchat, UK Head of Partnerships. And I believe there's content sometimes on different days in terms of your job title, but we'll stick with partnerships today. Ed, now you're something of a veteran at this event. It's a new event, which means you were here last year, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, when we think about the platform, just bring us up to speed with 12 months. A lot happens in any 12 months, a lot happens in any week, but I think particularly in the world in which you live, things move fast. Tell us about the developments at a platform level. What's changed in the past 12 months for you?
So I would say probably the trends that we've seen over the last few years in terms of our product and our business are worth sort of like reiterating. So I still think there's this kind of preconception that TikTok is an app for teenagers. We're actually seeing the average age of the platform continuing to increase now. Really, it's up to like late 20s. And then we're also sort of seeing the product really develop and diversify as well. So yes, short video is kind of still the core of what any sort of experience on TikTok is likely to be. But we're also building product features that kind of enrich in that sort of onward journey. So after you discover something really interesting in a video, you can go on to sort of engage with that. And probably the most high-profile product that we've launched in that space is TikTok Shop, and that's like our native e-commerce feature. And
if you're thinking for those, I guess the world I'm from, of like traditional media, for those traditional media brands, media publishers, they might, the big entities that you're working with might have 30, 40 more different TikTok accounts. How do you, as the partnership person, how do you help them make that kind of cohesive, or does it not need to be? Is it kind of piece by piece, activation by activation?
So we work with our publisher portfolio in the UK. We work quite closely, or provide like high touch support to about 400 publisher accounts. So in entertainment, we work with all the major broadcasters here, and then sport, all the kind of the big names, Premier League, Wimbledon, all the football clubs. We also work closely with news, lifestyle as well. So, our goal in working with those partners is to really enable them to use the platform as effectively as possible. What does that mean? Well, really, it's just making sure that their content output, i.e. the videos that they post on the app, are as of high quality content as possible, but also kind of maximizing the cadence, so the amount of content they're putting on the platform. And then once we've kind of established that sort of core base, we'll then actually take a step back and often look at how we can support their wider businesses, whether it's something to do with talent or charity initiatives or e-commerce, depending really on like the nature of their business and what they're focused on.
So then let's move that into reality. What would be good examples? Let's think of recent examples of that working well. Let's kind of to make it go from sort of theory to practice, I guess.
So I guess probably in the entertainment or the TV space, a project we worked on this year with BBC and BBC Studios was a program called Creator Lab, where we basically helped the BBC to identify 100 emerging TikTok talent. So people who have built their personal brand by using TikTok, by creating short videos. And those individuals have an appetite or an ambition to break into broadcast, right? And so we've seen that they've got some of like the natural gifts and that ambition to move into broadcast, And then we worked with the BBC to run 5 workshops around the UK, each with 20 creators, who basically learned like the core skills that they would need to sort of start that transition to moving from being just a digital creator to a kind of like digital creator that can also work in broadcast in traditional media.
I think there's something interesting there, and there's something for everyone, in fact. Maybe we come back to it at the end, is that actually that creators who are finding enormous success, maybe able to monetize that success as well, still often do want to exist in the more, for want of a better word, mainstream, traditional space as well. Is that your
Yeah,
experience?
100%. I don't think every creator wants to be on TV. I think from a platform perspective, TikTok, but actually all the platforms, really are looking at how they can help creators to monetize through the platforms themselves. So for us, that's things like TikTok Shop, live revenue, and a number of other sources of income. But yeah, for those who want to kind of break into TV, whether that's presenting, acting, whatever it might be, and take those opportunities, build an income stream that way, whether it's freelance or even full time. We really want to support them with that transition, because for us as a platform, it then kind of tells the story that if you start out as a creator on TikTok, you can be the next like Amelia Dims and become like the next presenter at the Oscars red carpet.
That's good for you. All boats rise, essentially.
Absolutely.
I think there's always and very naturally, I'm a journalist, so I buy into this. There's always fascination with the new, with novel, but I wonder to what extent is there a story that doesn't get told around perhaps people who own content owners, around legacy content, around older titles. Now they can be, brought to TikTok.
Yeah, I would say so. I think on the publisher side, we're starting to see publishers lean in more and more and looking at their archive content and kind of figuring out whether there's a business case for that archive content to exist on TikTok. And I think the other really interesting development we're seeing with entertainment in that kind of vertical is what I would describe as fan content, right? So if you look at a particular IP, let's take, for example, in the UK, one of my favorite shows, The Traitors, the BBC and the BBC's TikTok accounts will output a lot of content around the Traitors, right? So lots of different clips across their number of different TikTok accounts. But actually it's the user-generated content that can really kind of make a movement or make a sort of a viral feeling within a platform when people at home are creating content around those like particular titles. So I think for The Traitors, I looked in app, I think there's 13,500 videos that have been made with the hashtag the Traitors. That number actually doesn't seem that massive in the grand scheme of social media and the platforms. But actually when you think that some of those videos might be achieving hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, in some cases millions of video views, that actually can deliver like a huge amount of reach that actually the media owners themselves can't achieve just by managing social accounts. So I think that space is something that we're looking at and really trying to encourage creators to create more content around those IPs that they love.
And so how does a smart media owner, publisher then work with creators? Because it's interesting you mentioned, I guess there are instances of whether it's providing behind the scenes access or levels of access or perhaps some IP. There are creative things that could be done to...
Yeah, I think from the kind of the initiation, the very early stages of when you're sort of building a new IP or an existing IP, we'll have producers, casting directors come to us and say, look, we're looking for the next talent. Who do you think that creator could be that could feature on our show? So we can provide that kind of support. And then kind of as you get closer to TX, it's looking at, okay, what are the opportunities that we have to really like make some buzz around this show, and also once the initial kind of TX has taken place. So kind of knitting creators into those marketing strategies, I think is really important, and we're seeing the IP owners, and particularly we've noticed major like film studios in the US like really leaning into that process, especially around those red carpet moments, which are now becoming like incredibly viral on social platforms.
Thanks, Ed. Josh, the clock is ticking. Over to you. I think Switch. I think we have to start. It's synonymous with doing lots of very cool stuff. It's synonymous with live, but also doing lots of very cool stuff around gaming. But I think that's not the full story, is it? I think there's a much bigger story to tell around Twitch.
Yeah, it is and it isn't, right? Gaming will always be a very large part of what we do. It's our history, it's where we've come from. But I think one of the most fascinating things about Twitch is that if there is an audience and a community there to watch something, it exists on Twitch. Whether that's music, sport, gaming, so you name it, it does exist on Twitch. And it's interesting, our most popular category, and has been for some time now, is called Just Chatting. And it's almost basically this, people with a webcam right in front of them chatting to their chat running down the side of the screen, not depending on any sort of visual stimulus. And I think that's a wonderful thing. If you ever get the chance, if you haven't been on Twitch or seen Twitch, I would encourage you just to spend 5-10 minutes jumping into a Just Chatting category, big or small, and seeing the really fascinating relationship the creator has with their chat. So
it's building communities around particular passions, could be niche, but you can aggregate those niches.
Oh yeah, I mean, the example that I always tell is there's a creator called Pen Addict. He's obsessed with pens. And he reviews pens, like how they feel, like how they drag on the page, and like I've been influenced by him. I bought a pen. And now Ryman email me every month asking if I want more pens. I'm good. Ryman, if you're watching. But like, it's just a fascinating example to show that if there is people who are passionate about something that exists, and Pen Addict is probably one of the best examples of that. But equally, like we had Talia Ma recently, who's a musician,
Sure.
and she is a musician and but also a big gamer, and was brought and works with makeup brands as well, sort of bringing all of her passions into her streams.
I think Talia Ma is a good example because in terms of thinking about how creators can work with brands and how you can be part of that story, I think she's got an interesting story
absolutely.
to tell.
I think the thing that we had Talia in our offices a few weeks ago, and she was saying the really interesting thing about a brand integration to Twitch is because it's live. Sometimes we've all seen a brand integration to a creator that's not quite right, and maybe you think, oh, they're hiding behind the edit, they've taken several goes to get that, they just don't gel. You can't hide that in a live. When the brand and the message and the creator don't mix, in a live it's very obvious to spot. So when you do get a brand who want to incorporate with a creator live, it works wonderfully well. It fits really well into their natural narrative, their interests, their passions. And for Talia Ma, I think it was a makeup brand, and she was talking really passionately about she buys it anyway. This is the look she's going for that day, and you can see the chat. The chat was really engaging with that. Oh, how would you go about doing this, that, or the other? Not a makeup expert, so I'm going to go on somewhat sketchy ground here. But there was genuine interest and passion with what she was doing with that brand, which wasn't caged. It wasn't hiding behind an edit. It was very real, very authentic.
I think sometimes people like to be able to fix things in the edit.
Yes.
But there we go. But I guess what I hear there is that perhaps there is a kind of authentic connection when you get it right. It's probably, it's harder to pull off though. Is that fair?
Yeah, it's very powerful. But you're right, it is. And if you look at that brilliant funnel that Meta did in their keynote, like it's for the most engaged viewers. Like it is, the numbers on Twitch are not going to be the same as a VOD because it's you're asking people to come and spend hours sometimes watching a live stream, and what you get is a very, very committed audience who want to spend time with that creator.
Well, I think something interesting about Twitch is actually the usage times are high, right? In the high tens of minutes, whatever the actual number is. Is there also, do you see an opportunity for actually shorter form and short connections?
Yeah, we've tried to embrace that as well. Twitch will always be a home of long form content. As you said, our average watch time is quite long compared to the other platforms. But we acknowledge as well that sometimes viewers don't have an hour, half an hour to spend on a stream. So we redesigned our mobile app this year to try and sort of cater to those shorter sessions, and that's a bit more clip discovery, a bit more sort of more of a feed experience, maybe more akin to TikTok. And we've also tried to make it easier for people to export clips from their streams to other platforms like TikTok as well. Because I think you were saying really well, Twitch is pro-creator. We acknowledge that all creators live in an ecosystem. We're trying to help creators branch out to whatever they want to do next.
And that's interesting. That's one way in which the platform, the service you offer has developed. What else are you also doing interesting things around chat, aren't you?
Yeah, so this was another one. Again, one of the interesting things we're looking at is how do you collaborate with other people and try and bring them together. And one of the things that we had previously was if you're bringing somebody who is also streaming live together in a joint broadcast, your chat would be left on your own individual channels. So what we've done is introduce something called shared chat. So if let's say you're watching my channel or I'm streaming with you, Ed, is that we will you can see both of our chats combined in the same chat together. So it's a great way of not missing out on what's being said on the other person's chat, despite the fact you might be watching a joint stream on mine.
And when we were chatting ahead of time, Josh, you were saying that your sense is that there's a new generation of streamers. So clue us in. Who should we look out for, and how is this new gen sort of operating, doing things differently?
I think the really interesting thing is it's a mix of changing tack as well. I think the rise of what we would call IRL streamers, so people just wandering around, in television terms, doing walkie-talkies, like just doing this and wandering around, is really rising. And I'd say even 5 years ago that just wasn't possible. The mobile internet connection just wasn't strong enough for it. And if you wanted to do it, you had to have a giant streaming backpack on, which obviously still exists for those people who take it very seriously. But I think that generation of people who just whip their phones out of their pockets to go live, to wander around, to share their experiences of what they're seeing and doing is increasingly becoming more and more popular. And I think we'll see more of that as sort of internet speeds increase.
Lucy.
Hi.
Last but absolutely not least, and I think this might even be your third time here, so that really does make that gives you veteran status in terms of this event. But tell us, last 12 months then, so between last year and this year, well, tell us for a start how the platform service has evolved. What's new there for you? What's changed?
Yeah, we've had a busy year,
Sure.
as everyone has, but more and more people are watching content on Snap. So I'm going to throw a number out there where total watch time is up 25% year on year, and I think part of that. So last year I talked about the rise of creators on the platform. There's a lot of other platforms we've been talking about, and we affectionately call them the Snap Stars. They're our verified creators, and they have contributed to a 55% increase in total watch time. And it's
what is this? Tell me, Snapstar. Just define that for me.
A Snapstar. Okay, so you could be a Snapstar.
I really couldn't.
We'll onboard you afterwards. But yeah, they are creators who are uploading on a daily basis to public stories. Some of them are posting 100 a day of photos and videos, but it's behind the scenes. It's kind of everyday, authentic updates of what they're going through in their daily lives. And, public stories, they are seeing lots of reach because, we distribute stories, in that way, but also they can monetize them. So an example of a Snapstar, I seem to be working with a lot of farmers at the moment, but I have one called Farmer Will. He was a Love Island contestant, and he joined the platform about 8 months ago, and he is posting, 15 hours a day, not for 15 hours, just to be clear, just within a 15-hour day during lambing season, and he's just, photos, videos, talking to the camera about the day in the life of being a farmer. And what he describes it is, I don't have to overthink it. I can just post in the moment. And my community are there supporting me through this process, but also they're really interested in, how do I become a farmer? Or he might meet a veterinarian who can give him some tips and tricks. So, that's one example of one I'm working with, but it's that kind of everyday sort of day in the life you get to see through our Snapstars.
Are there, thinking about kind of the media publishers are there lessons that can be learned from the growth of Snapstars? What can we glean from that success and apply to business, I guess?
Yeah, so I think the last couple of years I've been talking a lot about sort of episodic show content that a lot of our publishers are still doing, and that's reaching great audiences. But I would encourage our broadcasters to also lean into that public story format as well, that kind of daily behind-the-scenes content. So I was talking to ITV yesterday about This Morning, which most of you know is a sort of morning daily show, and that's doing great on Snap. There's a real community that come to watch the highlights from that day or that week. But also, national treasure Alison Hammond is a Snap star, and she's posting as her, behind the scenes on set. She's bantering with Dermot. She's grabbing someone to have a quick chat with that's been on the sofa. So that connection, that extra engagement that you can get for a TV, format like that is really helpful when you use your talent or leverage them. And
given the speed at which things move, is there for the media publishers, IP owners as well? Is there now a kind of a best practice? Do you kind of sit down with them? Or is it just too fluid? Is it impossible to kind of even go there?
They're all very good at what they do on Snap, I have to say. But some tips I've been sharing this year is, again, with shorter form video, which does really well on Spotlight, which is our kind of short form entertainment platform, is think about that first second even more than ever. You are competing against the Snap stars I just talked about, the thousands that we've onboarded recently. general people like you and I. So you just need to think of that first second to engage them. But I also wanted to call out other partners who are sort of using other areas of the app as well. So we all went through some cultural moments this year with the Olympics and the Paralympics, and Channel 4 this year worked with us on an AR filter, on an AR lens, sorry, and you were able to engage even further with the Paralympics. So you could have opened up the camera and been an Olympic archer, Stuart. You could have done that through the camera, competed with other people, got a medal. It was excellent. But for Channel 4, it's another way of engaging with their audiences. So, yeah.
Thank you. Just to broaden it, to bring everyone back in, I mean, you mentioned, Lucy, you talk about cultural moments, withholding personal judgment. I think this week we're witnessing a very large cultural moment, and it does. My question, I guess, for everyone is, in terms of news, which can be contentious and brings with it challenges as well. What's your entry point? What's your strategy and thinking? And Ed, again, just because you're next to me, I'm going to come to you first there, and I understand this.
Sure. So I think everyone's probably quite aware that young people are consuming more news through social platforms. TikTok's definitely one of those. So, we're seeing news publishers in the UK perform incredibly well and driving huge video views, both here in the UK, but also that content, because it's such high quality journalism and in the English language, travels really, really well overseas as well. So as a platform, we're trying to provide, again, like really high touch kind of partner support to those publishers. And then I think longer term, we're looking at trying to understand how news will sit and exist on TikTok and kind of what that means for our ecosystem and also our user experiences as well.
And Ed, you know that it's incumbent upon me to ask this question as well, because I think your platform is perhaps the most scrutinised, is at the centre of like big news stories, notably in the US and North America, full stop at the moment. So I think there are questions around security. Now, when you're in kind of partnership mode, people must come to you with concerns. You must have to have that conversation. How do you allay them? How do you address that?
Yeah, I think we welcome questions from our partners and kind of externally, because I don't think we have, as a business, really anything to hide. I think I'm not deeply involved in the discussions with the US government, but as a platform, obviously, but as a platform, we comply with all the laws and regulations in the markets that we exist in. And I think our CEO shows the kind of really public face of our business, both on TikTok, but also kind of more generally says that, we're going to fight any like prospective bans because we really want to continue to provide a great product and experience to hundreds of millions of users in the US and around the world.
And Josh and Lucy, tell us about where news fits into what you do.
I think for us, it's about, again, it comes back to community. People come to creators they know to share a common experience with them. And the really interesting thing is that for every creator who has a different opinion or a different view on the world, they will gather an audience to chat about it. And okay, for a lot of people, this will be a very difficult week. And I've heard the phrase group therapy come up a lot this week in those communities where they want us to be together and talk about next steps or reassure each other. And obviously there's those who are maybe a bit happier how this week went, of course, as well. But I think that's the thing with Twitch. There is, every creator has a slightly different view of the world and ends up gathering people who want to hear that opinion of the world and chat together about it. And often, when we have an in real life event called TwitchCon, I know a lot of friendships have actually started off in the chats of some of the popular creators, and they've actually met offline and become deep friends, and that sort of shared experience is becoming increasingly common on Twitch.
And Lucy, how about you? Where does news fit into the picture?
Very, very important. Our Snapchatters want to feel informed, obviously. So, we have the sort of harder news, the kind of updates, the need-to-knows, the information there through our traditional news publishers. But also increasingly, their journalists are coming on board as individuals and as Snap stars, and giving our audiences that access of, being at the polling station or reporting live, obviously not through a live product, but updating stories. And then civic engagement as well. We have examples. We worked with the BBC this year ahead of the UK election to make sure that through an AR filter, again, you could open this up and get information about how do you vote, what do you need to bring, how do you sign up ahead of voter registration day. And we're seeing really good numbers coming through with people using that and then registering. I'm
very mindful that the clock is ticking. So what I want to do is just quickly ask each of you if we've kind of done what the last 12 months has looked like. Just look ahead, how your platform's changed in the next 12 months. But if I can ask you to try and do that in 60 seconds, starting now, Lucy.
Spectacles, 5th generation, launched. They're amazing. They're in the developer community now. But look ahead for that. New ad products coming our way, more to come on that. And we are testing a new streamlined version of the app with more announcement to come in a few weeks.
Which is simple. I have read about that.
It's going to be very efficient, and we are testing, so we'll come back to you.
Okay. Just under a minute. Josh.
I think we'll increasingly look to make it easier to clip things from Twitch streams and put them into other social networks. We acknowledge that people are often discovered off-site, so we're trying to make that journey as seamless as possible. If there's a great moment in your stream you want to share with the wider audience or be discovered on platforms like TikTok or Snapchat, we want to make that happen much easier. The mobile app will continue to develop and evolve, trying to make it easier to find people in those shorter sessions. Yeah, I think those are the two main things.
To second over, not bad. Ed.
Okay. In the entertainment space, I would say growth of fan content. So user-generated content from private individuals celebrating the IP and the titles that they love. Product-wise, I would say discovery of experiences, products in short video that can then have like an actionable onward journey. And probably the most prominent of those will be TikTok Shop.
Super. Now that gives us. This is going to be quick fire. I'm going to read out the questions we've got, and I'm going to get through as many as we can. What is the commercial model for IP owners when creators use other people's IP, i.e., should they use something from traitors to create their own content and that goes viral? Who gets paid? To anyone?
Good question. I'll take it because I mentioned the traitors. So we work with IP owners to ensure that they can enforce IP ownership through the platform. So we have a tool called Media Match, which enables them to identify when there's IP infringement and remove it. And then we also have quite kind of strict IP policies to make sure that anyone who's infringing regularly is getting that content or account removed. More kind of broadly, we're looking at where that value is created for the IP owner. Whether that looks like monetization or if it's like kind of top of funnel exposure. So I don't have a perfect answer to that, unfortunately.
An answer nonetheless.
Try my best.
How does Snap make money for a Snap star, Lucy? Asks Anonymous.
So if you meet some criteria, then you are eligible to join our Stories revenue share program. And this is when adverts appear within your public stories as kind of an interstitial. And then we pay our Snap stars that way.
Thank you. Scene TV mentioned 100K per video stream on Snap and $19 CPMs. Is it still possible to achieve that for new companies?
Absolutely. I'm sure it is. If you keep posting, following our best practices, be consistent. But if you are not a partner at the moment to post to our Discover shows, you're not able to do that right now. We're very much focusing on stories and Spotlight.
Josh, one for you. How can IP owners best work with Twitch creators, especially in terms of bringing catalogue content to a Twitch audience?
Depends what your view is on how freely you want to distribute the IP. One of our most popular sort of formats is reacting to content. If you want to offer that content license free to a large creator, they react to it on stream. It's a great way of reaching new audiences. So it largely depends on the licenses available at the time, but reacting generally is a very strong format we have.
Thank you. Two questions here that I think may be in the same area. News-wise, It feels like there is a danger of creating defined echo chambers. How can platforms ensure that viewers are given a range of viewpoints? And then I feel that this is the natural corollary here. How can you manage the negative aspects that might occur on different social media platforms? For anyone, or I can pick on someone, but I'd rather not.
I mean, go on again.
No, you go for it, please.
I mean, we have very clear terms of service on our site and our community guidelines to make sure that the language and sort of things that we have on Twitch are to an agreed standard. We don't, and obviously the echo chamber problem we speak of is real, but equally on Twitch it's more about your general interest, and we know that people tend to land on Twitch to watch a specific person more often than not as they enter the site, so it's more linking with someone you already have a relationship with as you enter the site. That typically is our use case.
Thank you. And Justin did ask me to finish on time. I'm sorry, Justin, I'm going to ignore that to ask one more question. He's big though, so thank you. What is the reasoning? I think this is a good question, speaks to some of the conversation earlier. What is the reasoning behind platforms lessening human partner support for media publishers and perhaps prioritising support for creators? Is there more support? Is the sort of resource being pushed more to creator support than media pub support, perhaps? Is that a strategic thing that is happening?
That's not happening at TikTok. We're leaning more heavily into publishers than we have been previously. I think for TikTok, we grew as a creator-first platform, but we know just like how important and how valuable publisher content is. So from a kind of big picture perspective, we're really leaning into publishers.
Yeah.
But I'm not gaslighting whoever said that question. I'm just saying from a platform perspective, that's like our thought process and how we're approaching it.
Lucy, did you want to come in there?
Absolutely the same. You know, the media publishers on Snap have been on for quite a long time, well, since 2015. And it may feel like we're spending a lot more time with our Snap stars, but it's just because it's more new. So, yeah, media publishers are still very important to us and should be supported in the right way.
Okay, before Justin literally makes us leave the stage, that was really terrific. Thank you. So it was good to spend a bit of time with each of you to understand kind of what's new, what's coming up, but then kind of break it out to a group conversation. There's so much more there was so much more to talk about. It kind of feels a little bit tip of the iceberg, and yet it was fantastic. So thank you so much for getting involved and sharing this news.